have a bunch of cracks in my house, and it's not enjoyable. I've lived there for 4 years, so I know all my cracks that have been patched and everything. The settling cracks, these are brand new. It's a 1950s house. It's pretty settled. Just kind of worried that it's going to damage my house significantly. And when they did the water main, it wasn't shaking like this. So they try to tell me, why didn't this come up sooner? It wasn't this bad. They use the same equipment, so I don't know why it's this bad. And they're not even on my street yet. Tomorrow they're going to be on my street, like doing the actual work in front of my house. So it's going to get worse. And they're going to do everything else to the road, but they're kind of ruining our neighborhood. And I know it's going to be all done eventually, but I feel like I'm moved into a construction zone, not that my neighborhood's under construction. So,
What's your name?
Maddie Piontek.
She wrote us an email.
You're the one that wrote the email?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I contacted the building department guy, and he told me to go to Spalding DeDecker, and he came over to my house today to look at the cracks. Unfortunately, I couldn't get home early enough to have him experience like the actual shaking in the house, and he looked at them and just was like, he made it sound like it was gonna be worth my time for him to show up to my house, and he showed up and just was like, yeah, I've never seen this happen before. No one ever gets cracks from construction. Not as if you go online, there's always people talking about it. When you get 10 plus, it's guaranteed it's construction vibration damage. So
we spoke about this. Are you done? Or
yeah.
We spoke about this today with Spalding DeDecker in the staff meeting, and he did not have a silver bullet answer, but Is the shaking happen more when they're using the vibrator to pack in the large concrete storm sewer pipes?
It's when they do that, it's not as much as the digging, because it's a dirt road, so it's like gravel and sand. It's hard, but it's not as hard as like your lawn. Because I work at DT, so I know how hard that can get. That one's not as bad. It's when they do that and then they pull the old stuff out, they really smash into it, and like the houses shake.
So
And
when the excavator is
smashing into
the
old
pipe
stuff
to break it loose.
Yeah, that, and then also when they use the vibrating attachment to the excavator, it seems like they really just slam it into the ground and then hold it like excessively. And it wasn't like they used the same stuff for the water main. It wasn't like this, because they were on General Drive, but they were on East Side, which is the same distance, and like the houses were shaking. I talked to all the neighbors pretty much. They all say it seems really excessive. Like they put their china away or like their figurines because they were getting tipped over and stuff's falling off walls. And they even told me Spalding DeDecker was like, it shouldn't fall off your wall, but I don't know why.
It's a mystery, but the only thing that's changed since when the water was put in, the ground is frozen.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's transmitting the waves more directly because it's frozen versus thawed when they put it. It was soft when the water.
It can move better, yeah. I don't know. I was wondering that too, because then why?
Believe me, he's working on it, but he doesn't know the answer.
Well, but that's the thing is he came to my house today and he kind of just was like, I don't know what you want me to do about it. And like, it just seemed like a waste of my time for him to look at him and go, huh, yeah. So I got 10 plus in my house. It sucks.
You have 10 cracks, new ones?
10 plus new cracks, yeah. Probably closer to 20. So yeah, and
that's not good.
And I even asked if he could, maybe they have a different, like the same machine but a different one, right? Like maybe there's something wrong with that specific one. He was like, I can't tell the contractors to do that, which doesn't make any sense to me. And like I said, people do have broken mailboxes, and he told me like, I haven't seen any broken mailboxes. They're clearly broken, and he won't do anything unless they contact him.
So for the cracks, make sure you
take
a video,
so I have
document
videos
the time.
and pictures with date next to it and a ruler next to it, and they grow every day. So,
John, you have a comment?
If the theme of tonight is respect, as initiated by our first speaker, Dr. Hammerich, you have sent 2 respectful emails. I responded with I thought was the most pragmatic. Ken McDonald,
I talked to him and he directed me to,
Dan Atkins, and increasingly in our society, we're going to need de-escalation because we're seeing the petulant child out of control anger syndrome. And we're going to need somebody like Kudra to go out there and de-escalate what's going on. He has to train the police officers in de-escalation techniques. So I don't want to see any verbal confrontation out there. And I certainly could not offer a knowledgeable opinion about construction. That's why I referred you to Ken McDonald and Dan Atkins, our ordinance officer.
they just said they don't,
Yeah, the real person you're into, it's Spalding to Decker,
yeah.
Phil Schrunk, and his boss, Jeremy Schroet. Jeremy Schroet, we discussed this in the staff meeting today. He knows about it.
And they're doing work on Michael Drive tomorrow, right in front of my house, and I'll be working from home. So if any of you would like to come over to like actually feel the house, and like I can tell you, it's probably gonna be worse than even when they're on the side streets, but you can feel it. And I don't have too many pictures hanging up, but you can hear like my dishes rattling, not tink 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 like the train goes by, but like someone took it and went like this. So feel free. You're to talk to some of the neighbors who will also say the same thing, so.
Well, Mr. Supervisor, who has oversight and accountability
Spalding to
for this
Decker.
issue?
They
Oh,
run the
oh.
project, they manage that. They have a contract with Main Street, we have a contract with Main Street Construction, but Spalding to Decker manages that contractor and makes sure all of the complaints, engineering details are all handled.
So the guy that
But
I
they said
talked-
that there was a mystery and they don't know, they don't normally see this, so they're,
Well, it's common. They just don't get people, I think, speaking up, to be honest, because you go online and everyone says nothing will happen, but Spalding said that it's only Main Street construction, like they don't have any interest because like they're not responsible for it at all. That's basically what they told me, because it's the contractor doing it.
we manage the contractor. All
Yeah.
right, I'll be on this again tomorrow morning. Jeremy couldn't be here today, or we didn't think he needed to be here today. So we will be on it. Jeremy is the vice president of Spalding to Decker, and he'll be on it. But like I said, this morning, he didn't have he didn't have a silver bullet.
And that's the thing, and they won't even like, a guy even said like, you're an engineering firm, I'm sure you can put something in the ground and you can look at the vibrations, or you have a buddy at an engineering firm. And he just says, no one ever does that. But like the Department of Transportation in Florida, I know it's like a little different, but they actually monitor that and they consider any cosmetic even cracks to be damaged, because it is.
The only thing
Like I
that's
said,
changed is
if-
the frozen ground is the thing
No, and I know,
that's changed.
but
that
it's
would
more
make
of
me
like,
put a question mark on maybe that is the transmitting the shock waves to the house more in a bigger amplitude.
and that's what I said to him, because I've taken geology classes and I the soil classes, but he said there's nothing abnormal ever about working in the winter with frozen ground. And we did have the coldest January, so it's been cold. But that's what he told me, is like there shouldn't be anything crazy. But like I said, if any of you are, it's just around the block, so if any of you are interested in seeing the shaking or the cracks, feel free.
Put your hand up on the,
No,
your hand on the television.
literally, you just feel the house, and yeah, when you touch the walls, it feels like it's a severe earthquake. So feel free. But thank you.
Thank you for having the
Sorry,
courage
wish
to
we
speak
didn't,
up.
wish we had the answer right now. Well,
This is not a talk, this is just a meeting about you guys and that young lady. I've got a friend who's got a place on Main Street in downtown Plymouth, and they had a lot of sewer work done this past fall, and they were having problems as well, so you might want to check with the guys in the city of Plymouth to see if there's any crossover in terms of solutions. to the
on Main
problem.
Street was where the construction was going on. Main Street?
Main Street in Plymouth. City of
Main
Plymouth.
Street, the contractor as well?
I don't know who the contractor was. It was an issue of using the wrong type of equipment for what they were doing. So then I'm not an expert on this, but that might be helpful in what you're trying to do.
Anyone else? All right. So we'll go on to new business. Number one, we're going to have a informational presentation from a company locally here in Plymouth about the Biopod system that is used to clean the muck from the bottom of our Plymouth Township park. I'm considering this idea. I wanted to show it to you. It's separate from, well, it precludes the need to use, for example, chemicals like copper sulfate that we use that kills the weeds, and they sink to the bottom, and then they create muck. It's just a temporary fix. This is a constant microbe-eating fix, and that we'll hear the details from our local residents, their town, Roy Cole, who's the president and CEO of, how do we pronounce it, Ruggiero?
Well, that's if you're.
You need, it'd probably be better to go at the podium,
That's if you're from Europe.
okay?
Ruggiero, no, it's, Rigoro.
We started the company in 16, did empirical data studies all through 17, but we were sitting up at Northville, what used to be Northville Rockies, which Rockies still, deciding what we were going to name this company. And Rich, one of my partners, who is our nerd factor, came up with very cool names like Clean Blue Water, H2O Recovery. And I said, what about Rigoro? And he said, what is a Rigoro? I said, well, it's Rich, George, and Roy. And Rich then told me that was the dumbest, coolest idea he'd ever heard. That's how we started. And basically what we did was we came up and invented a bioreactor that goes into ponds and lakes. I ran into some challenges, so we basically took wastewater treatment technology along with aeration. We combined them together, made them exponentially more powerful by hosting, growing, and distributing 24/7 in the body of water. In the body of water is kind of essential because we grow microbes, beneficial bacteria, probiotics, billions of them every single day, 24/7 in the body of water. What these microbes do is we have both aerobic and anaerobic microbes. So some can live with oxygen, some can live without. So the ones that can live without go down into the organic matter, the biomass, as we call it, muck, and it starts consuming and digesting that organic matter. The microbes that live with oxygen hang in the water column. They consume and digest the excess nutrient load from dead leaves, runoff, goose and duck fecal matter, all sorts of excess nutrient load that causes eutrophication. So we came up with this and combined aeration along with bioaugmentation. And when we were getting our patent, we were sitting in front of our patent attorney and he said, guys, and he's actually from Birmingham, he said, guys, this is one of the coolest concepts I've ever had the privilege of patenting. And he said, and the irony is you two aren't that smart. And I said, well, thank you. Go figure, an honest attorney. No offense. So he said, no, he started to backpedal. He said, well, let me explain. Usually it's limnologists, biologists, people in the water sector that come up with these ideas. You guys are just two smart guys with common sense that took bioaugmentation, been around 100 years, aeration, been around 100 plus, and we've combined it. And as I said, made it exponentially more powerful. The key to growing microbes in the body of water, typically pond and lake management companies have to do huge studies on water type, sediment type, all sorts of things to try to figure out how they can combat whatever invasives are taking over a pond or lake. Since we've created the stone soup and we're growing the microbes in the body of water, regardless of how many of the strains actually survive, the ones that do, we grow a lot of them. So it's kind of survival of the fittest, and that's the concept behind our system. We have about 700 units out across the country. We're in 32 states. We received our patents in December of 23 for the United States, and during 24, we acquired Canada, Mexico, and Europe. We're three guys from Plymouth. Our office was in Southfield, which we hated, And we just moved to Plymouth over off of General Drive in January of '04. So we've been in Plymouth now for a year. Both Rich and I live in Glenview subdivision right off North Territorial, and we ride our bikes through McClumpha quite a bit. I don't even know if we're supposed to, but we see the pond all the time, and it frustrates me to no end. And I actually brought this to the attention a couple years ago and said, hey, we'd love to help. We're here in Plymouth. I think it got pushed to the back burner, but fortunately now they're reviewing it again, and it's kind of near and dear to my heart to help, especially at home. And so basically, we've presented an idea to do McClumpha, and McClumpha gets pretty bad. Problem with using chemicals, because chemicals work, is they kill everything on the top, as Chuck said, and all that biomass goes to the bottom, creates more biomass to create more stuff to grow on the top. So it's a vicious cycle. You have to break the cycle. We are not a silver bullet. We have to make sure we set expectations correctly. We're a root cause, long-term solution. We're not attacking the symptoms. You know, we're actually attacking the root cause, which is the organic matter at the bottom and the excess nutrients. So that's kind of our spiel. We're on fire. We're kind of excited to be in this business. Obviously, we're capitalists. We want to make money, but if we can actually leave this place a little better than how we found it, which sounds a little hokey, it makes you sleep better at night. So that's kind of what we do. And I wanted to make it pretty quick and give you just a little bit of background and then open it up for questions, because I'm sure people might want to know a little more. Yes, sir.
This pond is in sequence with a stream. Does that require a different kind of permit from Eagle, the regulating agency?
Good question. One of the fortunate things about our system, because we're a class 1 microorganism, 100% natural, microbes that are found in the forest, we require no permitting. We have got our bacteria blend approved by Eagle under Rule 97. So we simply let Eagle know where we put our units. But the bacteria blend is approved already via Eagle. So we don't kill anything. We're not a pesticide, herbicide. We're, as I said, 100% natural, and we don't shock any system. We grow microbes every single day. So a little bit leaches out into our grow chamber, and we grow billions of these microbes. I'll put it in a real layman's terms for you, because I understand this best. People used to say to us, gosh, we've tried everything. We've tried chemicals, we've tried blowers, aerators, fountains, grass carp, straw, you name it. And I applaud the people for doing natural applications. But where was I going with this, Rich?
Well, you're gonna say that, that our system is a natural.
Well, yeah, no, they said they tried muck pellets. They threw in $400 worth of muck pellets, and not a lot happened. Well, that's not true. Muck pellets are a microbe, a beneficial bacteria, or a spore bacteria that when you hit water, it comes alive. The problem is half of them don't live. The other problem is they have a 6-7 day life cycle. They spike out, die, digest CO2, go into the air, they're gone. So it's like throwing money down the drain. Our system, we take $10 worth every day, and we grow 1,000 every day. So what I tell people is, if you were trying to clean up your pond with microbes, you'd have to put in $1,000 a day worth of muck pellets to do what ours does. So that's what makes us a little more powerful, exponentially more powerful than anybody else out there, and we're patented, so we're fortunate to have a little bit of a monopoly.
So the microbes, so the microbes eat the plant decomposing plant matter that is sunk to the bottom, and they turn it into what is their byproduct?
Yeah, so they're digesting primarily CO2, which is permeable in water. And what they're doing is they're taking all those molecular, whatever makes up the organic material, and they're breaking it down to a smaller size. So if you've got 3 or 4 foot of muck, which I'm sure the ponds out here and over at the park have, you know, you're making that muck get lower and lower. And it's just like nature when you see a squirrel or dead in the forest, a dead animal or leaves. There's little worms and bugs and things that eat those things, but there's also little microscopic creatures very similar to the microbes that we use that are already in nature, that are class 1 microorganisms that are consuming and digesting dead things.
Organic.
Dead leaves, dead animals. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, it does.
Explain. But where do those things go? Well, they decompose.
So how long does it typically take before you start to notice results?
Well, you know, you see results very quickly on some aspects. For instance, if there's a bad smell in a pond, that tends to go away very quickly. We see water clarity improve very quickly. What takes more time is to take a 2 or 3 foot of muck and get it down, you know, a foot or 2 over a few years. It could take 3 or 4 years to get rid of over a foot of muck, but that's a massive win because you go from 2 foot of water and now you've got 3 foot. Well, now you've increased your volume of your pond and your depth, you know, by 50%. And the problem with pond management, and many of you may live in some subdivision or, you know, where there's a retention pond and an HOA, is that people keep treating with chemicals and the muck gets so deep that the chemicals don't work, and then you're left with a $100,000 or a $50,000 dredging project. So we've saved a lot of folks that got to the point where the ponds got so bad that they were looking at a dredging project, and we helped keep that from happening and say, we got another way. So that's some of the things people think about when they look at the system.
If this is part of a creek system, what keeps the microbes from just washing downstream?
They do go downstream, but our system keeps producing more. So the advantage for us is if you were applying bacteria, which some people do, even in liquid or whatever, or you were applying chemicals, so if you get a storm the next day, it's washing down, it's going down the creek. But our system, because we're growing, hosting, and distributing right in the body of water, if we get a flush out, well, in a few days, we're growing gazillions more. So we're always treating. It's not when we just show up to recharge the system several times a year. It's every single day. So we're very robust, and we're very good at what we do.
You asked about the inlet and the outlet. Actually, flow through is helpful for our movement of water is super healthy.
Yeah.
You know, so we tell people, they say, well, will it hurt if we run a fountain or an aerator? I said, heck no. Movement of water is healthy. It provides CO2. It helps to promote native bacteria growth. So an inflow and an exit is actually pretty good for our system. We've actually put this on a river. And one of the things Rich missed was what keeps the microbes or the bacteria from getting flushed downstream. Our system is not just the bioreactor. I call it the hotel that produces billions of microbes. We also have the nanopods that go around the perimeter of the, they look right there. They're all natural netting, a river rock. We have the nanomaterial, a cork, and those things go every 20 to 25 feet around the perimeter. And what they act as is secondary host mechanisms. So as we grow these billions of microbes and they start moving around the pond, they find these to start to proliferate off of. And so do the native bacteria. So it's kind of a whole systems approach on taking care of the whole body or the whole area that you're trying to actually recover. And the cool thing about these nanopods is we actually stumbled onto this because we were doing lake associations, and every time after a meeting, people would come up to us and say, we love our lake, we love our board, very similar to this. They said, but they can't make a decision to get out of their way, so can you just do my frontage? Because I want my grandkids getting out to the jet ski without walking through 2 feet of stuff. And so Rich came up with these nanopods, and as we put them around a perimeter of a frontage on a bigger body of water like a lake, we're on most of the lakes in Michigan so far, we actually can carve out someone's frontage and fix it, and that's property value. So it's...
And many of the microbes are escaping that frontage, but we're able to create enough density of microbial growth and activity in the area of treatment, even though we're on a wide open body of water. So that kind of answers the pond question when you have a flush out. we still have our nanopods and our biohealth pods producing bazillions more microbes every day.
We do testing every year on approximately 40 lakes or ponds, typically in the Midwest, primarily in Michigan. And we're seeing anywhere from 2 to 11 inches of organic matter being reduced. Obviously, that brings back volume. The UV rays don't ping the excess nutrients as badly, so we tend to suppress some of the blooms. You're still going to get algal blooms. I like to be very transparent or set expectations right, because Rich said in a few years, it could take 10 years. Here's the point. It took a lot longer than that to get 2 feet of muck, and if we're reducing it by 2 to 11 inches every single year, that's insane. Most people, when they use those Band-Aids, I call them, you can slow down eutrophication, but you're not going to stop it. And gosh forbid, you're not going to reverse it. And we're actually reversing eutrophication. We're actually reducing the organic matter. I used to call it biodredging until Rich told me that dredging was a 4-letter
Don't
word.
even say it.
So,
Never say that.
but
So our firefighters were in that pond last week. How much muck is in the bottom? Or you didn't go to the bottom? So you, pardon?
We don't go to the bottom.
You didn't go to the bottom.
We did start though with some black holes and it's pretty good.
All right, so there is muck in the bottom.
I guarantee there's probably a foot or 2 or 3 or 4. And
Well, that's a very shallow pond out there to begin with.
We're not talking, we're
oh
not
no,
doing
he's
that
talking
one.
about
Plymouth
Plymouth Township
Plymouth
Park.
Township pond.
That's a much deeper pond. So if you get to the middle.
But we're not going to turn it into a swimming pool after a year. That's what I try to let people know. This is a long-term root cause solution, and we're actually recovering these lakes. Could it take 3 or 4 years? Sure. Could it take 10? Yeah. And people say, well, how well is it going to work in mine? And I'm like, if I could tell you that, I'd be a pretty wealthy weatherman.
Somebody has a question in the background.
Sorry.
So you may have to get closer to ask, because no one will hear it on the recording.
So,
But they can repeat it.
Right next to the golf course, which probably has a lot of lawn chemicals on it, and like all the phosphorus usually in like lawn fertilizers creates a lot of algae growth and stuff. So how well does that work with that? Does it impact them?
Absolutely.
And like also, why wouldn't we just see if we could reduce that kind of stuff? So
Well, you absolutely should reduce that stuff. And we have people in neighborhoods, our neighborhood, they don't want us using that type of fertilizer. I get all that, that's good. But when we did our empirical data study, it was at Lake Somerset, and that was in 2017. We just bled money in 2017. Oh, and we had a woman who was on the board of the River Raisin Watershed. She's a professor, PhD biologist at Michigan State University, and she kind of fell in love with our concept because it was all natural. And she did our empirical data studies that first year, and within an 11-week period, we reduced phosphates, nitrates, and fecal matter by 37%. She was blown away. But we also reduced muck, or organic matter, by 2 inches. Now, I'm doing the happy dance on the muck because I can sell no muck. And she was more into the holistic approach of saying, look, if you can manage nutrients in this lake, we're 7 lakes up from Lake Erie. You could have a cause and effect on the tributaries and the watershed. And she was thinking more holistically, and I was thinking more, let's clean the muck out so we can get to our jet skis. So good point, though, that we do reduce nutrients. And
in that vein, we are making one step. We will no longer be fertilizing the township park.
smart. I'm sorry,
So how much does it cost, order of magnitude?
billions. No,
Well, bazillion was the,
It's a discount when you consider how many microbes we're gonna get.
So I think you
I
told
gotta
me,
count them?
I think you told me it was
We'll kind of
15,000 initially and maybe 1,000 a year after that.
after the first year, and we're talking, we would put 3 units. 1 unit handles up to about a half acre, and it's about 1.6, 1.7 acres, McClumph is. So we would want at least 3 units in there, and we think 3 units would work well. And that's your pond out front, which I'm scared to death of that thing. But
That's a
McClumph, I'm
much lower
excited.
priority. The township park pond is where the
Yeah,
real-
that's the one.
that one right there.
That's the one I think we can help quite a bit. But, you know, it's interesting because people would say, oh my gosh, it's a miracle. we don't have any algae. And I'm like, well, slow down. You've only had it out there for one season. And then maybe season 2, they call up and say, it's not working anymore. We had an alga bloom. And I'm like, well, it's Mother Nature. As long as we're reducing that organic stuff at the bottom and managing the nutrients, we're on the road to recovery. And that's kind of how we have to frame this.
So is there some kind of a guarantee over a period of time?
Yes, we have a guarantee that if you don't reduce organic matter on the bottom and manage nutrients, they're going to go up. No, it's Mother Nature. We know that we're getting rid of between 2 and 11 inches. We don't know. Typically, it works better the crappier the pond because we grow microbes to the food source.
You have some objective measure that defines crappy pond, so folks know if they've got a problem to deal with in this place?
Well,
Are there any negatives associated with what you do?
time is the negative, I would say. Yeah, it does. It's a long-term root cause solution, and I keep reiterating that, but that's what it is. And people 2 years down the road go, well, it's not perfect. I'm like, I told you that 2 years.
Okay, we have one more question and then we've
sorry.
got to get
Don't
moving.
forget, this is our meeting here for us to deliberate.
That you have to continually feed into. It's not going to reach a point at which the microbes are at some point of homeostasis with that environment. It's something that because we have the environment we have that isn't very clean, we have to constantly put something into it. Is that the understanding?
Yes. Yeah, right.
So kind of repeat the question because it probably couldn't have been heard by the audience at all.
So you were asking, I think, what happens to the microbes we're producing, and I'll just try to explain what happens a little bit more with the microbes. So is that sort of what you want to know?
What my question is, or my understanding on just on the validation, this is a system that has to be continually put into. There won't ever be a point at which the microbes, in a human gut microbiome, we reach a point at which, okay, there's enough healthy, you have this balance.
Right.
But in nature, we have an environment that's unhealthy, so you're putting healthy things into it.
Right. So what?
You have to continually put that.
We have 2 phases. We have the recovery phase and then the maintenance phase. So you're absolutely correct.
Right.
So we're going to get it back to where it should be, and then keep it that way so that eutrophication doesn't happen.
But as far as the microbes, there are natural microbes already in there, okay? And they are decomposing things. But ponds in nature become eutrophic over time anyway, even without human intervention.
And that's because there's stasis there, right? There isn't movement.
Well, there is some movement. Every pond's different. Obviously, with our aeration component to our system, we're creating movement. But what we're doing is, because we're growing them in the pond, we are growing to the food source, as Roy said. So it does balance itself, too. And we're just adding more, and we create the hosting, which nobody does. That's what differentiates us. So by creating the hosts, we're creating a natural system, albeit we created it, to work inside the pond. And so we're always growing to the food source. We're never overdoing it. We do recharge the system every 8 weeks or every 4 weeks. And so it really works well. And it does create balanced aquatic systems, which is very helpful.
And then what are we spending right now on the control?
Trying to get that number, it's potentially a couple thousand, but a year.
A year?
But it's erratic. I've got to look it up. Some
And
years it's
That's a
less.
pretty good price to just add to the problem. No, I'm just not a big,
Do that. For example, I don't know what we're doing, but usually the easy thing is copper sulfate.
right.
And that's what's sprayed on a lot of ponds.
It's a chelated copper, which is what's legal in Michigan, and it does kill everything, including our microbes. And so all you're doing is adding to the problem. It looks good for a few weeks, and then you have them come out and do another, and it kills everything, goes down, it just.
Okay. So we're a little smarter on this, and we're going to obviously.
Is there anything out of your slides that you want to?
With this right here, this is Canton, the golf course. This is at Pheasant Run, the one back.
down from there.
Yeah, and one of the homeowners on the other side was kind of a squeaky wheel, and we basically, after 4 years, we're able to really, and that's a golf course. So that was a good point that you made about golf courses were our primary market because there's so many nutrients from the fertilizers that flow into these ponds that make them look like that. So obviously we're going to put up the best looking pictures, but that was Canton. We did Northridge Church. We reduced E. coli out in their retention pond. But the next
one?
that one is a HOA in Northville.
Yeah.
And that one I grew up on. It was Barton Hills. That before picture, they spent 3 years getting a dredging permit from Eagle. You can see the muck starting to breach the surface. And just before they were dredging, they had to send a sample to Eagle, and that sample showed scant traces of arsenic. So now they had some more bureaucratic stuff they had to deal with, including a toxic dump site. And it was just a mess. So he called me up, and we fixed it. That's the canal up on Upper Straits Lake in Bloomfield. It was very difficult. They couldn't get their boats out of the canal because they would have to back up about every 10 feet to get the stuff off the prop. So they were having a huge challenge. And we put 4 units, and then we ended up putting a 5th one. And they just love us. So that's a lakefront. We had lily pads. This is up on Woodland Lake in Brighton. We had this homeowner, the Buckenbergers, they had lily pads that were taking over their boat area, and on the other side of the dock was a swim area. It was just as bad. And basically, we didn't kill anything. We didn't kill the lily pads. We simply out-consumed the food source that caused them to bloom or to take over the frontage.
It took about 2-3 years to get it to where there was almost no lily pads, but after 1 year it was about 80% less. It was, but it isn't always that quick. It isn't always that dramatic, but it does. We always make it better.
All right, well, thank you for coming today.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next item is fiscal 2025 miscellaneous budget amendments and carry forwards. Elizabeth couldn't be here tonight, so I will handle this. Maybe Jerry can also, but what we have is the Budgeting and Accounting Act requires that the Township Board prepare a budget as soon as a deviation is known. These items, let's see, it's page 70 of the packet. So the general fund, there's going to be a change of $172,000. The DDA is 800. Other government funds is 24,000, and the proprietary fund is 71,000. So the big highlights are some carry forwards. For example, patrol cars that weren't purchased in 2024, rifles. We had some people that retired, so they had a payout.
For sick time and vacation and.
Yeah, the cruise.
Right.
So that's the 18.7. Number 2, the DDA fund is $800. I don't know exactly. That's probably more administrative or paying for consulting. The federal forfeiture fund, we were going to purchase a car in 2024, and we haven't done it yet. I think that's what the 24,000 is. It's related to the upfitting of the vehicle.
Right.
Which is putting the lights and doing the other
Computers
special
and-
wiring and computers and other unique things required for the police department. Number 4, this is a carry forward. The DPW garage floor has a floor drain problem that we will fix. We don't know when we're going to do it, but we didn't do it last year. I looked at it today. It's something that we need to do, but we can wait a little longer if we have to, but we're going to see how that tumbles out with quotes, if we can get a reasonable price. So the total is $267,533. And this is carry forward from
Right.
2024 to 2025.
Right.
So this is not incremental spend then, right?
No, this is all moving forward
Okay.
from 24.
Any questions, or otherwise, if somebody wants to make a motion?
Mr.
I move
Super-
that the Plymouth Township Board of Trustees hereby adopt resolution number 2025-02-11-12.
Second.
Clerk Borba, yes. Supervisor Kermy,
Yes.
Trustee Buckley,
Yes.
Trustee Clinton,
Yes.
Treasurer Dorchevitz,
Yes.
Trustee Stewart,
Yes.
Trustee Groth.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, F3, which is non-union, non-represented employee salary adjustments, is pay increases for salaried employees. It was not in the 2024 budget as approved, so this is incremental. It's a total of $37,000, which includes pay, social security,
Health.
retirement, healthcare, expenditures for these people. They are union employees. Many of them received 4% raises. In fact, in some cases, some non-union people who have a special contract received as much as 8.5%. So I'm asking you to approve these as a gesture to keep these employees reasonably whole. And in some cases, we will make adjustments. This year, we didn't have any performance reviews, so in the future, we will try to do more merit-based, but for now, this is what the consensus. I consulted with several other people, including Jerry Vorva, who has some of these employees, and this was the consensus. So I'm asking for your approval for this budget amendment.
Mr. Supervisor, I move that the Plymouth Township Board of Trustees hereby adopt Resolution 2025-02-11-13 to approve the salary increases for non-union employees.
Second. Who seconded it?
Clinton. Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Trustee Groth.
No.
Clerk Borba, yes. Treasurer Dorchevitz.
I have concerns I don't want to get into individuals, but I have concerns about one in particular. I'm going to vote yes, but I'm going to expect that we have a conversation afterwards about this.
So tomorrow?
Trustee
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes, with full disclosure.
Supervisor Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Clinton.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, so now we have comments one more time. Keep them as brief as possible. We're going to go to closed session after this, and we won't be returning, well, we'll be returning to adjourn. So this is why we want to get the comments now. And if board members want to make any comments, do that also after the public comment and before the closed session.
I figured we'd save the best for last. So I'd like to introduce myself. My name's Mike Evans. I've lived here in the township for 40 years. Several of you may know me. My first work with the township was I served as a community service officer under Mike Richardson and Carl Berry 40 years ago. That was before we even had a police department. And we rode around the police car and did like a neighborhood watch thing and kind of launched our police department there. But then I met a lot of the guys at the fire department, and they had more gear, bigger trucks than that, so I decided to move over to the township fire department as a paid-on call. And I worked there under Larry Groth, that I loved and respected. After that, I helped build a playscape out at McClumpha Park. I live right down the street from it. And I had 2 kids growing up, so it was a great work over there to build that, and what it's come to now is really awesome. And then most recently, I served on the Civil Service Commission for a few years with John Blackwell, and that was a real good experience. So I came to 2 weeks ago meeting and been following on the social media stuff about the fire department. And what's going on with it. I know several members and appreciate all the residents that have gotten up and spoke. I got 35 years with the fire department. I worked with the local fire department before I retired 3 years ago. I held every position in that fire department all the way up through chief. As chief, my team took the department through accreditation, and we're one of 3 departments in the state of Michigan that was internationally accredited. 5 years later, took them through a reaccreditation. They are still accredited. And really back then, we were one of 2 departments in the state of Michigan that was accredited. Since ours, Grand Rapids came on board and the city of Canton came on board. So anybody that knows anything about accreditation is driven by data. That's what it is. It comes down to what do you do, how do you do it, and prove how you're doing it and the data. I love data. I love numbers. Proud of where I worked, and we showed what we did and how we did it. We were the best at what we were doing. So with that, listening to what's going on, I think I could really explain, and I'm offering up services to Plymouth Township. I know, Mr. Kermy, you mentioned about a third-party vendor going out, contracting them to come in and take a look at things. I think as a resident of Plymouth Township, and I think I'm qualified probably better than any third-party vendor, that you could go out to get to take a look at our department, and I'm free, you know, which is just a really great deal. So, but I don't want to do this. Obviously, I'm retired. I'm loving retirement. It's a great thing. But I think there's a need here, and I'm passionate about it. I'm passionate about our community. And amongst yourself with the board, and to discuss this, but I'm willing to come in and work with the men and women of the fire department, work with the chief, work with any of you that are interested, compile the data, present the data, and I'm looking at right now, there's 3 or 4 options that could be put in front of you to make a decision on what level of service that you want to provide to the community. I think it's important. It needs to be done. I know, Mr. Kermy, you're new here and you kind of, you know, looking at how things are done and to get a better understanding of it. Like Mike Richardson 2 weeks ago, the presentation that he put on, I thought was outstanding on the Veterans Commission. Everybody was attentive to it. I learned a lot sitting in there listening to it. We could put together a presentation that would make it crystal clear of where we're at, how we got to where we're at, because things have changed since I was on there 40 years ago. What we used to do, what are we doing now? What's changed and where do we need to go? And all it would take is a half hour of listening to the presentation, and we'll give you some options. And if you don't like any of those options, then we can go back and look at it. But I'm pretty guaranteed that something, you know, you'll be willing to go with and change things, and maybe no change, right? That could be one of them. I don't really think so. I think, you know, I don't think you can stay stagnant. You know, our department, you're always looking to move forward, to be the best, to be better, and to serve the community, you know, with the men and women that we have. So I'm willing to do that. So you can talk to the chief, get back to that. Chief, I've got my phone number. If this is something you want to do and you're willing to, you give him guidelines, he can reach out to me and we would get, you know, take off and get it running.
Thank you very much for the offer.
Yeah.
Are you willing to work with alongside a paid consultant?
Yeah, I would. You know, I just hate to see the township spend some money. I would say, give me a shot first. Give us a shot. You got some really talented individuals, you know, that are out there. And before you write a check or go into a contract, give us a shot at this. You know, I mean, take a month to get it together.
So the us is you and Chief Conley?
It could, yep.
Or is it?
What could be some?
And anybody, I mean, any trustee that wants, you, Mr. Kermy, I don't, Mr. Dorchevitz, anybody, you know? I just don't want to see it built so big because then it becomes burden and nothing gets
Well,
done.
that was my proposal via email about a study session that perhaps we could have. I didn't suggest it, but Mike could be one of those for the study session.
Yeah.
So what I want to harvest is, I want to harvest these ideas, but I don't want to have a free-for-all where everybody is throwing their idea up on the wall, where it has to be synthesized into something that's actionable. And I don't know quite how to do that other than with a paid
Well, I
consultant.
think very similar
first
to
you
the
gotta-
remediation with the, 2 weeks ago, you threw out 4 different options and we're kind of narrowing them down. I think that sounds
I've
like
seen a
what
lot
you're
of paid
saying.
consultants get paid a lot of money and bring back a recommendation to a community, and the community does not take that
Yeah,
recommendation.
and that.
So they just spent a lot of money,
That's certainly true, and
It is.
You definitely have an impressive background, and your offer is very much appreciated.
Yeah.
It depends on, step one is you got to define a scope of what is the question that you're asking, because if we do work alongside a paid consultant and it's the right resource, it's minuscule cost compared to one of the proposals I've seen out there is a $40 million decision over 20 years. So if you spend $50,000 on a consultant to confirm that a $40 million decision is the right decision, I don't think that's a waste of money.
Right.
So, but the question is, what is the scope of the question that is being asked? Because I've heard 3 different questions. Started with eliminate HVA and hire staff to fill in the gaps that would be left behind by the lack of resources, and it's morphed. And I don't even know what the question is.
I think the one understanding that the board needs to really know is what's being delivered right now. And this whole thing could be 2-part, right?
Yeah.
Is to make you clearly understand what's being done and maybe not what's not being done, and the ramifications of what's not being done, right? So there's risk benefit to everything, right? We live day to day with risk benefit. And that's what you have to do. You're weighing out the risk to the benefit. Right? And that's what we have to present. And this may be 2-part. I mean, the first part maybe is to clearly let you see what is happening. Because the one term that I tended to use a lot, and it really is, it's orchestrated chaos. The police department, the fire department really works under orchestrated chaos, because when nobody can handle the situations, that's who comes in and is handling it and brings all the pieces into it and brings it all in and makes it manageable, and that's what you have to weigh out. What is that risk? What is that?
You do.
That benefit.
You
and
do.
I think we just need to take a step back, slow down, not play it on social media. I love this forum right here because you can come in, you can listen to it. It's transparent. It's all about, there's nothing to hide. Nothing at all. It's not us versus them or HVA or anything else. It's to lay it out and listen, this is what's happening right now. This is what we're doing. And in my department, I went through this exact scenario several years ago. So I've got experience that I had to deliver where we're at.
What department was that?
I was out at Metro Airport, fire
Airport
department out
Authority?
there. So we had 3 stations there, 1 station out at Willow Run. We provided ALS, we provided structural, and we provided ARF, aircraft rescue firefighting. So we had to do 3 different taxis out there.
You did that for the city of Romulus also?
We responded auto aid with the city of Romulus. They surrounded us. We had a great relationship with them. They needed us and we needed them.
You worked for the Airport Authority?
Yes. Yep.
The branch of the county.
So,
Yes.
the offer's out there. Let the chief know, and we would get busy at it.
All right. I'd want to grab on something. I just don't know how to structure it so that we achieve a result that is actionable and truthful. I don't know how to do that.
Mr. Supervisor, if you let Mr. Evans and I work on that, we can at least come up with a start.
Well, and it's just information,
Yeah.
right?
You know,
The study
it's-
session isn't a decision session, right? It's to study this and.
Well, we can get together, work on a start, I think, and then we can get back to you on that. That sound good, Mike?
You mentioned one little word that's concerning, and you mentioned the word truthful. I wouldn't be standing up in front of you and putting my reputation on the line if it wasn't anything but truthful. And it's going to be right here, and the data is going to show that it is true. It's not coming from well, we think this is happening, or maybe we should this, right? The data that we have, and I read some of the comments, you probably had 3 meetings ago where you mentioned Clemens, right? So the fire department's using Clemens. Everything comes from dispatch, comes through CAD, and they roll on that. The times are stamped, everything. It's not them creating the times. It's all punched through CAD, through dispatch. And that's what we're gonna use. We're using the data that comes out of Clemens, we're using the response times, we're using the runs, we're using a percentage of runs. That's what we're looking at. That's what has to be looked at.
So how would you analyze the number of runs to determine why they are growing, other than the hypothesis? There is a hypothesis, we're aging, but no one's been able to, we don't know, no one's made the cause and effect yet.
That's a $1 million question.
Yeah.
Why are runs going up? Every community is experiencing it, right? You got the growth in the community, more people traveling through here. We have 2 interstates that are coming through our community. You have what has just taken place out at St. John's, and the money that's been poured in a venue the size of St. John and the Cardinal and a PGA Tour being brought there. So you have an influx of thousands and thousands of people coming in to experience our community and the awesomeness that it is. So I get a little surprised that somebody goes, why are our runs going up? Shit, look at our community. Look at what we got out here.
But
More and
take,
more
for
people,
example,
more people creates more calls.
Take, for example, the 1970s and the 80s, we had many more production workers in Plymouth Township every day than we have now. Burroughs had 5,000 people. Ford had 1,600. You had a couple of other larger operations. We don't have those operations anymore. So that's somewhat of an offset. And the freeways have been here, 275 opened in 1975.
Yeah, with probably a third of the traffic that it sees right
yeah,
now,
M14
right?
opened.
And the industrial park out where I used to squirrel hunt, that was nothing but farm fields. Back then, the industrial park, I mean, that's way bigger, but when you drive by Burroughs and you talk and you look at the number of companies that are in there, you know.
But it's not the level of people that were working at Burroughs in their 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I mean,
right,
anybody can have a crystal ball, but you can't make up the numbers that the numbers are going up, you know.
Well, and
I mean,
they do. Why?
Huh?
Part of this
why.
exercise is normalizing the data, because in
Yeah.
fact and fiction, I don't know what's fact and fiction, but somebody told me that the way that runs are measured are different than they used to be. I don't know if that's true or not true. But that's just one example of when I wouldn't use the word truthful, because I wouldn't suggest that you wouldn't be truthful.
Yeah.
I would look for the word, and this is going to sound offensive, unbiased or unfiltered.
Padded?
Pardon?
Padded is a word that
Not
the
padded.
numbers are being
Padded
padded.
suggests that that you're intentionally manipulating data. By unbiased, I mean, you know, when you want to control your biases, you got to understand what your filters are. The way, and I look at things, I have biases, we all do, and that's because of the filters that I have. But when I want to look at a problem like this, and if I'm going to do it with intellectual integrity, I have to understand what my filters are and try to remove those. And that's where you get unbiased. So it isn't a question of, if you say somebody has a bias towards the way they're viewing it, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a nefarious intent. It just means that you've got a green pair of sunglasses and I got a brown pair of sunglasses, and that's why we see the images differently.
And I also think there's something to be said, and I've said this repeatedly, being informed, because having a bias is nothing if you're not informed, if you don't understand how it works.
Right.
And I think that is the biggest issue that we have.
I think so too.
How many people know firemen work 24-hour shifts? Right. How many people know how the schedule,
Right.
People don't understand the operation.
Right.
So it's important that you make that part of it. It's got to be very clear.
And I mean, it's no skin on my back if anybody's hired, if anybody's laid off, if we stay status quo. That's not what we're about. What we're about is to show you the data, lay it out there, and I guarantee you it's going to be crystal clear. Crystal clear. of what you see. And if not, call me out on it.
But how can you say that if you haven't seen the data yet?
Actually, I have seen some of it, but I will dive into it. You know, I will dive in. I didn't want to spend a lot of time. I pulled up some Clemens reports with the chief and looked at some numbers to see what was out there and to see if what we needed was even there, and it is there, you know?
But I think
And I can't tell you which way this is gonna present, because I wasn't gonna spend hours and hours on this without getting up in front of you and having your support. And I have no problem if you don't want it. I just wanted to make the offer, is all.
that's
I appreciate that.
very
You know,
much appreciated.
So,
And I would like to work with you if you do that. Just as a trustee, I would like to, see what's going on and be part of it.
absolutely. Yeah.
So that was more than 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for taking the time.
Well, I appreciate y'all. I appreciate you giving me the time and, let me know.
You got to look for solutions.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Anyone else?
So this is just, my name's Eileen Cohen, this is just a brief response. The main thing is an objective analysis of exactly what's going on right now. What is dispatch looking like? What do other communities do for dispatch, and are they more successful than we are? We have to analyze that. That's a good element to bring him in, but you need completely unbiased analysis. You need HVA to enter into this equation as well. What's going on with them? And that should be at the same table. Because if there is a discrepancy, that's where it will be settled with both voices present. What's true? What is really happening here? Dispatch is done differently in different communities. They have better times than we have. They have better relationships with HVA than we have. This all has to be analyzed, and it's a complicated system. You have a lot of moving parts, a lot of complexity to the human person, and how do we triage properly? This is not easy, but it's not, you can't have one side. This has to be completely, to get a good solution, maybe better than what is done now, maybe better than other communities even. You have to analyze.
To add to that, it's a generational decision. It's a 20-year decision.
Yes. And if the decision that's going to be made with this impacts lives. And we have a system now, you're looking at a very complicated system of firefighters, HVA. We have healthcare that's falling apart, literally. Our healthcare community is falling apart. That would be verified. Patients are waiting in hallways. They have no rooms. They have short staff. So this is a lot more complicated than just, okay, what's happening with the firefighters? That's very narrow. This is a very complicated picture. If you want to achieve best outcome for Plymouth Township residents, please analyze everything carefully. When they go to West Bloomfield, what's the turnover time? When they go to U of M, what's the turnover time? When they go to St. Mary's, who's qualified? The whole triage. Henry Ford can't do anything for cardiac. That has to all be understood. Every single aspect of this system, which is very complicated, needs to be analyzed.
And I think another element that has to be taken into account is, what does the public want? And so you can't leave them out of the equation. You can analyze all the data, and then you have to say, what is it that the public wants and expects from the services that we render?
I wasn't planning on speaking tonight. I just wanted to thank Chief Evans for taking that opportunity in retirement. What he's looking at doing, just so you guys know, is just step one. He wants to talk about and explain in detail on the data that he can give you guys and work with the chief just to explain how we operate, what we have, our shortfalls, where we excel at, and where our shortfalls are. That's all he wants, so you guys, the citizens, can make educated decisions. I agree with you. once it comes down to how we operate and what's going on, bring HVA in with us, right? That's all he's looking to do is explain to you guys, because there is a number of things that you guys don't understand. I mean, no disrespect, but some of you guys didn't even know we were all paramedics, right? That's concerning, and that's what he's looking to do and address to you guys. That's it.
Thank you.
So I just want to thank him for that.
So Chief, quick question. Isn't a lot of what Mrs. Coleman mentioned up at the microphone about data, isn't a lot of that in our packets?
Yes, there's run data every month in the packets. I do the monthly report, and it's submitted monthly
Yeah.
of all our run data.
That's the run data.
The other thing
It
is
doesn't say
Chief Edwards
why.
actually has helped me with some of the stuff. He actually made some of the reports we need for some of the stuff he was building out at the airport. So he's actually helped. Columbus can be very difficult sometimes to mine data from, and he's, I'll probably make him blush to say he's an expert doing that, but he's very knowledgeable doing that.
You do a yearly summary,
Yes.
Pardon, what was the question?
do you do a yearly summary? I believe a yearly summary has been prepared for years.
But I don't recall one from 2024 yet, right? Was it the annual one?
I have it. I don't know, maybe we just.
Was it the January
It
one?
was done in January, yeah.
Is the sum of the entire year?
Correct.
That
I'll
That's what
double
we
check,
have
make
in
sure
our
we got it.
packet.
Wait a minute, the January monthly report reflects only January of this year. We're talking about.
Right, I think
an
we may have
overall-
not, we might not have sent 24 to you, no,
Right,
I'm thinking of it.
we
so.
need the whole year summary.
2024.
Yes.
I'd like to make my comments through the chair, as I was properly taught. I approved a bill this past week regarding the fire department. I was unaware. I've delivered 5 sets of kidney stones at different years. We now have a resupplied stock of catheters. Isn't that wonderful? I've walked around with a catheter for 3 weeks at a time. I don't think the firefighters have clearly put forth what you do and what you are responsible for. I had no idea that a firefighter
Mr.
was to
Stewart?
be aware of catheters.
Those
from
are
a
IV
medical
catheters.
family.
Those are IV,
IV catheters.
so they go into my vein?
Yes, a catheter is simply a tube that goes in your body, either takes fluid in, puts
Oh, it's
fluid
an
in, or
IV.
takes it out.
Oh, okay.
It's an IV catheter, yes.
I'm unaware, and I don't appreciate being, having any derogatory remarks. I'm trying to help. But if you're being taught how to install, how to implement an IV catheter, make us aware and inform us, and don't put somebody down because they were unaware. So I approved the bill for the catheters. Oh, and but I was talking about a catheter that a urologist uses.
You mind if I speak again?
I'm well acquainted with those, because of kidney stones.
I don't mean to attack you. We take blame for that. That's what we want to do, is inform you how we operate and what we have. The fact that you guys might not have known that, we take full responsibility of that. That's what we want you to know. That's what he's trying to show you and make you guys understand what we do, how we operate, so you guys can make informed decisions. I don't mean that.
If you don't install an IV catheter correctly, expect a lawsuit.
No,
So you have a heavy responsibility.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
I understand that. I took it as I was being disrespectful to you.
Okay.
And that's
Oh, no, I'm not talking
what I
about
mean.
you.
We're just trying to educate you guys on how we operate. That's it.
I think humility is key, and you're right on the money.
Every month.
Look at that, 7 times.
I know.
Okay. We have another one? Okay, one more.
I am partly to blame for the emphasis on data. I also talked to you guys a while ago about the hierarchy of data, information, knowledge, wisdom. Waving around sheets with numbers on them are just numbers. You have to have analysis to make that data into information. You have to have perspective to be able to take that information and have knowledge. And then if you have someone who's really good, has a lot of experience, multiple people preferably, you get to the point of having wisdom. The problem that I think we collectively have is that there are gaps in all the stuff we're looking at. Sandy knows a lot of stuff about some stuff. The chief knows stuff about some stuff. The union guys know some stuff about some stuff. HVA and the health department know some stuff about some stuff. The manufacturing guys in the community who live here know some stuff about some stuff. But the idea of figuring how you synthesize it is really the challenge. And I'm not sure how we do that, but you do have some holes. And that's kind of what we need to figure out collectively how to work on.
Which I think is exactly why we talk about bringing in an expert to be able to tie those things together.
Yeah.
You know, for example, mutual aid this year, or in January, we gave 7 mutual aid times to Canton. They gave us 0. Canton has the department that is highly staffed, and has just hired some new people. Why is that? Why are they asking for 7? That's almost twice a week. Northville Township, 4 times given to them, 2 times given to us. And it's consistently happening, and I don't know why. So those are something we need to look at. These highly staffed departments that are using techniques that are much more allegedly sophisticated than us are requiring more help from us. We're the small guy, and they're the big guy. But don't know the answer, so those are the kinds of things to think about. Anyone else?
Okay.
All right, so we're going to do closed session. Let's see, what do we have to say? We have to read something, right?
So moved.
Well,
Do we go to a
don't
closed
you have to
session?
read
Yeah,
something?
I'll do it. It is now,
Oh, wait a minute, public comments. Board comments.
Oh, is anyone- I
Yeah,
thought-
board comments.
Oh,
anyone
no?
have any?
Yeah, we'll do it, because these people will be gone
Okay.
when they return. Whatever blows your hair back, you want to wait and do it later?
Do it now.
All right.
Get it done.
Okay, let's start. Jen, go ahead.
I wasn't ready. I
Oh, you
thought
weren't, okay.
I had more time.
All right, I'll start. Chief Conley is working on having he had a meeting yesterday with HVA. They're working on tweaking some of the dispatch. They're looking at the new Clemens report data. So we are making some progress, small pieces, incremental improvements, we hope, as each month goes on. So that's what I know there. Sprayscape, we're continuing to work on it. I'm hoping that we get a design that we can bid, maybe with some bidders that aren't as high priced. What else do I have to report? Next meeting, don't have any earth-shattering things yet. Maybe we're not going to have a work session next meeting yet on fire department. I want to figure out a way to structure it. I don't know quite how to do it yet, so that we can have some productive discussion and percolate up. That's why I would like a professional facilitator that could deal with percolating it up and doing these kinds of things, and then we could capture the ideas on a whiteboard, or we'd have something more sophisticated with somebody being able to get the ideas down and the concepts. So that's all I know for now. Go ahead. Who wants to go next?
I'll go. Taxes are due Friday. Don't mail them because we won't get them. So in the event that there's a snowstorm, we're still going to be open, even if I have to get a sleigh to get here, because it's going to be snowmageddon again, I hear. It might be as much as 3 inches. But right as of this afternoon, we're about 90% have paid, and this is typical. We get a lot of traffic these last few days, so we're pretty busy. But thank you for your continued support. I am getting a lot of questions about sidewalks. If there's a question about opting out and how that you go about that, there's an email address. It's sidewalks@PlymouthTownship.org. send the question to that, and if they don't get it answered, people are welcome to call me. I'm getting 2 or 3 calls a day, and I'm taking people through that, so that's about it.
Anyone else?
I just want to say that it was very pleasant to sit here this evening with everyone and work well together and collaboratively. It was very pleasant. And I did speak to the attorney about the social media thing. He already has it, and so we'll see what happens as a result of that.
Okay, I can go. Mr. Supervisor, I'm very grateful and thankful that we're moving forward in trying to find solutions to the fire department and public safety in general. And then just based on your email, based on your comments here, as well as your engagement with Mr. Evans, do we have a commitment from you that we will have a study session?
Yes, we
Soon.
will have a study session. I don't know when. The chief and I talked about it briefly. He is not, he's been overwhelmed with handling issues, so we're not ready yet.
Okay, so
And
but we do have a
also, being a
commitment
little
from you at
later,
some point.
you know, when people return from vacations, right now, there's a lot of people that are out of town, that are retired, who are
Be nice.
in Florida or Arizona or wherever. So, plus, I want to continue to explore hiring a third-party consultant. And the chief is also working on trying to get some other additional people that we can interview. So
Okay, so it sounds like a
It's not-
commitment, and I really
it's-
appreciate it.
it's top of mind every day, but we can't point to a piece of progress every minute or every day. So don't think that it's being left undone.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And then second thing is February 17th, I know it's President's Day, but we will have a Veterans Commission meeting here. I'm pleased to, it's not an announcement, but I have been in contact and communication with Ethos Tactical, which is a sports performance center here in Plymouth Township, and working with them for a sponsorship for the Armed Forces 5K Ruck March, so that, again, we can get the word out, but not be using township dollars for that. And just to help them with what they do to honor our veterans and first responders at their facility and be in collaboration with one another. So that's ongoing. And what else? Celebrated my 50th birthday last week. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right.
Anyone else?
No, just the only thing, I know we talked a couple weeks ago. We still haven't received email. Chuck, I know you don't like email, but at a bare minimum, what we were thinking is maybe could we, at the staff meeting, do you do staff meeting once every 2 weeks?
Yes.
Every 2 weeks? Could you just, after the email, could you just, with the
Just do the
Like what we
highlights.
talked about?
yeah, we
Summary.
just write it down and then we look at it and see, so we know exactly what we're talking about at a bare minimum. That would be
All right, I'll
appreciated for all
take
of
that
us.
under advisement.
Okay.
Just briefly, there is money in the budget to fix the audio stuff. We did a few years ago, did all the audio. This is a 20-year-old system, and the company that is helping us has been really busy, but they should be out here before the end of the month to give us a good idea about what we're going to do for making sure that we can have a good broadcast.
It's audio only?
No, we did audio. This is all video. And it has to do with the system back there. You have some newer system that's audio, and you have old system that's video, and so it's causing a couple of problems. And not always. It works most of the time. So we do have it in the budget, and I've been in contact with the company, and they're ready to help us.
Those are PEG funds from the
Yes.
cable fees that you've been paying for decades.
Exactly. So this is a separate fund. It can only be used for that kind of thing. And so we have the necessary funds to upgrade the system. That's all.
John?
Yes, three positive things. One, I want to thank Trustee Groth for the Canton social media policy. I certainly hope not only we adopt it, but I hope we follow it and live by it and speak to it. Secondly, I want to thank the supervisor and the chief of police. It's an absolutely true statement. We have more police officers on the road in Plymouth Township than ever before. Therefore, the political narrative that this supervisor or somebody else was out to defund the police is a total falsehood, not based in reality or truth. And finally, a week from Thursday, my wife and I have been invited for the 14th year in a row to attend the Soul Food Luncheon in federal court. And I will say hello to my friends Denise Page Hood. I will say hello to my friend Sean Cox. And I will say hello to my friend Brandy McMillian, the new judge who is the judge for the $10 million lawsuit against Plymouth Township. But I will not be alone at any time during that Soul Food Luncheon on Thursday, February 20th, from 10:30 to 1:30. I'm going to have a witness with me, so nobody charges me with conflict of interest.
All right, we ready for
Yes.
the canned words on closed session?
And the time right now is 7 after 8. And I move that a closed session be called for the purpose of consultation with attorneys in accordance with the Michigan Open Meetings Act, Section Michigan Compiled Laws 15.268, parentheses 8, for the following purposes. Section 8E and 8H, attorney consultation regarding Northville Downs versus Plymouth Township. Section 8E and 8H, attorney consultation regarding MZY Investments LLC, this is over the SPARS situation, versus Plymouth Township. And Section 8H, attorney opinion concerning possible health insurance portability and accountability act, which is called HIPAA violations.
Second.
Second by Groth, and this requires a roll call vote. Supervisor Kermy?
Yes.
Treasurer Dorshevitz?
Yes.
Clerk Borba, yes. Trustee Buckley?
Yes.
Trustee Clinton?
Yes.
Trustee Groth?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
We're in closed session.
So let's take until 8:15 so people can go to the facilities.
Yes.
Thank you for educating me.
Hey, I've removed my Facebook and Instagram from my phone. Very freeing. But I do have it on my iPad, which I use once a week, so.
Gave it up for Lent, or will?
Yeah, just trying something
Okay,
new.
it's 9:25 PM, and I, Borba,
We got one guy missing.
Oh, my.
Oh, he's, okay, he's missing.
Anybody a basketball fan?
Okay, it's
Michigan beat
8:25.
Purdue.
I, Borba, move that.
9:25.
I wrote it down, the city. The board return to open session.
Second?
Second by Grove. Supervisor Kermy.
Yes.
Treasurer Jones.
Yes.
Clerk Borba, yes. Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Trustee Clinton.
Yes.
Trustee Grove.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Yes.
Yes. I move for an adjournment.
Second?
Second by Grove. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're closed.
9:25.